Hello. My English is shit, but I have a story for you guys. This all took place around 2 years ago. I was driving to work, a 5-hour drive. It was already dark. About 3 hours of driving in, I started to get tired. I bought myself a coffee and some snacks at a gas station and kept trucking on. But snacks and coffee can only keep you awake for so long. I started to feel tired again. This part of the road was nothing but thick, dark pinewood forest all around me. No other cars on the road. Nothing. Only insects smashing my windshield every now and then on an empty road. I was now extremely tired, and at one point I even nearly drove off the road for almost falling asleep. I had to sleep now. I couldn't wait for a gas station. I needed to stop as soon as I see a place where I can park my car. Anything. When I'm tired, I fall asleep very fast. If I'm tired enough, I can even fall asleep in the middle of a sentence while I'm talking, so it's a bit urgent for me to find a place where I can stop for a bit. It felt like an hour, but was probably just 5 minutes. I spot this little pocket on the side of the road. It's almost like a parking space for quick stops, like peeing, switching drivers, or things like that. Not even a real resting area. I stopped there and turned down my windows to check if I heard any weird noises. Total silence. I turn up the windows again. Nothing bad is gonna happen. I haven't seen a car for about 30 minutes. This road is completely empty. If someone is checking out my car, I bet it's the cops checking on me to see if I'm alright. I leave my keys in the ignition and I lock the doors, just to be extra safe. I adjust my seat a bit to make it more comfortable to sleep in, and I take off my shoes and put them on the passenger seat on the right. It was so nice to close my eyes finally, that I instantly fell asleep. I don't know why, but something woke me up. I couldn't really see anything. Some kind of bright light hits me in the eyes. At first, I thought it was a flashlight, but then I realized that it was the high beams from another car in my rear view mirror that were blinding me. I look into my left mirror, and I see a man walking up beside my car. Maybe he wants to help with something. Should I make it clear to him that I'm here? He's right beside my back left door. Should I step out and ask what he's doing? I didn't have to. The dude proceeds to jerk and pull on my left back door. I almost shit my fucking pants when I realize he's trying to force his way into my car. My seat is adjusted for me to lay down, and I pushed it back max. I can't reach the pedals, which makes it impossible for me to drive my car from that position. I slam the car horn, and it breaks the silence with a roar. The man jumps, and that gives me about 2 seconds to push my seat up and reach the pedals. It was still way out of adjustment, so I'm kind of pulling myself to the steering wheel because my seat is lying flat and isn't supporting my back. Anyway, I start my car and drive off, with a cloud of smoke from my screeching tires. It's hard driving a car with nothing holding up your upper body, but somehow I managed. As I leave, I look in the rear mirror, and I can see how the dude stands there and looks at me. I can see 2 more men coming up beside him. I can see in the silhouette of their beams that one of them has something in his hand, probably a wrench or a crowbar. I drove super fast, way over the speed limit. My whole body was trembling with adrenaline and fear. I drove like that for 30 minutes. Then I stopped at a gas station finally to fix my seat and put my shoes on again. I figured out I was only sleeping for about 10 minutes. Well, I didn't have to sleep until I got to my next destination after that, which is surrounded by heavy-duty fencing, and the building has an alarm. I told my boss the next day, and he said they actually have problems with what we call in Sweden road pirates. Criminals that force you to stop on the road and rob you of everything, including your car. It happens in that specific area. It could just be three nice dudes that wanted to check if I was okay. Then why didn't they just knock in my driver's window? The thing in his hand had to have been a big flashlight. So everyone, be safe. Hi there. I've been a long-time lurker and found stories somewhat similar to what's happened to me. I live in Massachusetts in a populated city, so I mostly rely on public transportation to get me places. This included the subway, and living here nearly all my life, I have many stories regarding the subway, such as a guy sitting next to me and touching himself, a woman just punching me in the face, and the story I'm going to tell today. Me and most of my friends would rely on public transportation to get ourselves to school. This happened in our sophomore year. Our high school was placed smack dab in the middle of the city and around some colleges. I had a friend who would go home with me every day, and we both used the subway. Living in a populated area, I was aware of the potential creeps and dangerous people. It was around 5 p.m. during the winter time, and it was quickly starting to get dark. After our club was finished, me and my friend began our journey to the subway station. This included walking through a college campus and many streets. It was usually less than a 15-minute walk to the station, so we would just walk and mind our business and the things surrounding us. Halfway through our walk, though, I had a feeling that someone was behind us. This wasn't surprising since it could have been other students, and this was a heavily populated place after all. Me and my friend were both slow walkers, so I was basically waiting for this person to pass us like others would. Although, I waited for a long time and still felt this person on our tail. When we got to a crosswalk, they were still right behind us, so quickly and slightly, I turned around to take a peek at them. My heart started beating faster than ever when I glanced at them. At first, I thought they were wearing a ski mask, but I was mistaken. They wore a black beanie and a black scarf, tightly wrapped around their mouth and nose. He must have been about 50 years old or older, and had a dark green windbreaker on with some baggy black pants. What irked me a little bit was how close he was to me and my friend now. He was less than 5 feet away, and I was terrified that I was going to accidentally smack him with my JanSport backpack, which I've always had stuffed with textbooks and whatnot. Me and my friend crossed the road, and as we continued to walk on, I became more and more weary. He was a lot closer now than before the walk, and he wore heavy Timberland boots that would crush and pound against the salt and the snow. As a girl, I've always been insecure about my body, and I was just terrified for me and my friend, since all this man could see was the back of both of us, most likely eyeing us down. Note that both of us were 14 years old and super passive at the time, so confronting this person was the last thing I wanted to do. I saw that my friend would glance at her phone every now and then, and go on it to respond to texts, so I ended up texting her. "A man's behind us. Creepy. It's been 10 minutes. She replies, "I noticed. I don't know what to do." Since we were on a college campus, there were often large tours given by people and crowds of tourists. We began walking a faster pace, and I heard his footsteps quicken as well. I leaned in and whispered to her to walk through the crowd and make an immediate right on a different path that we'd never take to the station. It just led to a different gate exiting the college, and outside of the gate we'd be about 50 feet away from the subway station. So we did exactly that, and walked right through a crowd of about 40 to 50 tourists standing by a popular statue. Afterwards, we were speed walking by this point, and I looked behind me to check whether he was still behind us. Luckily, he wasn't. We proceeded to walk down the stairs towards the station, still shaken by what had happened. We paid to get through the gates, and then we got onto the platform of the train that would take us home. There was a certain exit I liked to take at the station. I would get off to get home, so we walked further towards the left side of the platform with more benches. We found an empty bench somehow amidst the large crowd at the platform. It was Friday, after all, and almost 6 p.m. I sat on the right, and my friend sat on the left. Not even 30 seconds after we sat down, I felt a presence standing right next to me at the bench. It was him. I saw the Tims. Not only that, he was just facing me, heavily breathing, and most likely staring down entirely. I saw his shoes pointed at me, and baggy black pants stuffed within his boots. I was terrified, and nudged my friend as she was on her phone. She was still holding her phone, but froze and didn't continue to click on anything. Just as we were both in our frozen trance, the announcement started playing that stated that the train was arriving. We both shut up as the train began to come. I took her arm, proceeding to lead her to the right side of the platform and directly through the crowd. We stood in front of the doors of a train cart along with many others. I looked to my right, and there he was, in front of another train door to our right. Each train cart came with 3 pairs of doors that would automatically open and close. We chose the middle door, and I thought it was odd that he was at the right door instead of following us in. Then I thought that he would probably isolate himself and follow us off the train cart at our stop. I looked up at the train board to see that another train was going to come in 2 minutes, and as the train doors opened, people began to spill out. We waited for everyone to shuffle out, and the group at his door had already shuffled out, so he was in the cart already. I still held my friend's arm, and I made us go into the cart last, standing in front of the doors. There were less people on the train at this point, but all of the seats were taken, or there were 1 or 2 left empty per row. I could see him on the right side of the cart, staring at us as he stood by a metal pole. The train would make a warning noise that would be about 3 beeps that indicated that the doors would close. These beeps were about half seconds. At the first beep, I instantly yanked me and my friend out of the cart and back onto the platform. The doors quickly closed, and I sighed in relief. The train started moving within 5 seconds, but within those 5 seconds, horrifyingly enough, the man sprinted up to the closed doors, which had 2 transparent windows, and stared down me and my friend. We backed up immediately. He still had the beanie and scarf on, but all I could see were his menacing eyes. He proceeded to bang on the glass, making us both jump, but it was shortly cut off as the train cart pulled away. Still looking at him banging on the glass as the train moved into the tunnel, my friend fell to the floor and started crying. There weren't many people on the platform since everyone had boarded the train. I began to console her and started to tear up as well. We were both young and oblivious to everything. I helped her up and we got on the next train and sat down, blankly staring out of the windows across from us, which showed the dark subway tunnels in motion. Afterwards, we were near our homes and parted ways. We never told anyone about this, although we should have, thinking back on it all. I met up with the same friend a couple of days ago, and we were just reminded of this event. Overall, I'm glad we were both safe and out of harm's way in that moment, but I just felt so stupid knowing that I could have gotten someone's attention since we were near big crowds, or even possibly a security guard. I watched a film recently that reminded me of what I went through, so I thought to share it here. It still bothers me, but as time's gone on, it's getting a bit better. When I first started dating my now husband a few years back, we would meet up after he finished work, and he would bring his bike and lock it up. He lived a few miles away from me, in the next town where I lived and where he worked. He biked a few miles a day. He would also meet up with friends sometimes. Afterwards, we would walk to his bike, and then he would walk me to a taxi and I would wave goodbye as I was driving off. I lived a few miles from the nearest town myself. My husband lived a few more miles out. He would then bike home by himself. I never once thought to check if the taxi man had ID or if his face matched the picture. To check the company actually exists. I just always trusted it was the real thing. I do constantly check these things now and ring up to make sure the person actually works here. It sounds paranoid, but here's why. That night, I got in the taxi just like every other time before. The taxi driver seemed quiet, but I just assumed he was either tired from a long shift or just a bit shy. Being a bit shy myself, I thought I understood. I did the usual and told him where I lived. To get to my parents' house, where I was living at this point, you have to go down a very long road and street, about a mile long. Then you have 2 turnings. If you miss one, it doesn't matter. You just drive up a bit more and you get to the second turning. The taxi man missed the first turning. I thought he must have been daydreaming whilst driving or just didn't know the area very well. Back then, I did a lot of giving people the benefit of the doubt, and overly naive and nice. I told him, but he just kept on driving. Fear started to kick in, and I actually shouted, "Hey, you're gonna miss the second turn too." He was still driving. He wasn't saying a word at this point. I remember grabbing my phone to ring the police, and he slammed on the brakes, causing my phone to fly out of my hand and land on the floor near my feet. He reversed backwards without checking if any other car was behind us, and was about to go down the second turning. I quickly said, "Here is fine." I had a bad feeling, and I didn't want him to know where I was living. He finally spoke to me and said, "Sorry about that. I'm a bit tired. It's been a long night." I felt bad for shouting and doubting this man at this point, but after the second turning, if you don't go down it, it leads to the countryside and nothing for miles and miles. I was scared he was going to head that way. I said don't worry and gave him my money, and then told him to keep the change as I felt for him being tired. He said thank you and smiled and put his hand on my leg. He whispered, "You know, you're a very pretty girl." With that, I quickly smiled and said goodnight. I didn't manage to even get 1 foot out of the door when he grabbed my right arm. I felt a bit funny on my right side, which suddenly hurt. I managed to pull myself back up and tried to get out. Some of it is a blur, but I remember him pulling, and I could feel the pain on my arms. I managed to get 1 foot out the door when he yanked me by my hair, and I could feel pain radiating on my back. I managed to wiggle free, and I left everything in the car. It was a case of run, Forrest, run, and I ran home as fast as I could. Luckily, it was around the corner. I remember running upstairs and ringing my boyfriend, now husband, and then just went black and passed out. I woke up the next day in my own bed. My boyfriend stopped over on the sofa my mom and dad had lent him, and he informed them what had happened. They let me sleep it off for a bit. When I did wake up, I had scratch marks and blood all over my arms and back from the taxi driver. I didn't realize at the time, but the asshole bit me too, right on my arm. I ran upstairs to feel safe, and I blacked out from shock. I rang all the taxi services, and even the police the next day. I gave them the company name, and nobody had ever heard of it. I gave the description of what he looked like. I then thought, has anyone else in our hometown had this bad experience? So I went on Facebook and asked around. To my shock, loads of girls that I actually knew said they'd had an encounter with him. One said he was acting shady and showing off so she didn't go in. Another got out when he complained about her sitting in the back seat and not the front. The police said he must have gotten scared and backed out of the plan, or saw I was about to use my phone when he went past the second turning, but got the courage to do it again. My boyfriend went back to the area where I ran from, and all my stuff was laid out on the path. Obviously, he didn't want evidence in his car. The police were keeping a lookout for him, but nothing ever came of it, until a few years later when he was caught. Me and my husband were watching the news and he got arrested. One woman managed to ring the police, and they got him on so many attacks and attempts. I do wish I managed to get a good swinging punch into his face, but I'm glad he was caught, and let's hope he's learned his lesson. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. As always, be sure to let me know what you guys think, and please feel free to like, comment, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. I know some people have also had some problems about videos not appearing in their sub box, so please make sure to hit that little bell if you guys want to always be notified of when my next video comes out. As always, links to all of my social media will be in the description of the video below. You can find links to my Twitter, Gmail, Twitch, and Facebook accounts. So if you guys ever want to talk to me, just go ahead and shoot me a message on any of those, and I'll try to respond to your message as soon as possible. I'm also going to start trying to stream on Twitch a little bit more, so if you guys have notifications on there, you'll be notified right away when I go live. I might also try to do some on YouTube, but I haven't decided yet. I'm still kind of trying to decide what kind of streams I want to do. Anyways, if you guys have a story you would like to send in, or if you have a story you would like to suggest that I read, go ahead and send me a message on any of those links in the description below. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include the title, how you would like to be credited, and any genres that the story might have, if it does have one. If you guys are curious about the music used in this video, go ahead and take a look in the description below as well. I always put all of the music in the order in which it appears in the video, and I also have links to the artists as well. Last but not least, I also have a Patreon if you guys feel like you want to contribute to the channel a little bit, but of course, as always, it is never required and you will never have to pay for watching any of my videos, so that's just something you do if you feel like it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please be sure to leave your feedback in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you very much.